morning, great afternoon, great night. Welcome to Moments of Mindset, the podcast. I am your host, your guide, Rodney Williams. As always, thank you for joining. If this is your very first time, welcome to the family. If you've been here before, you know the energy that we carry from season 1 and season 2 and in season 3. It's all about the experience, and not just my experience. I am blessed that I am surrounded by savants and experts and people that want to serve and give. And tonight's guest, he is no different. He is a leader. He's an author. He's a mentor. He is a friend that has reared me for 30 years. I introduce to you Mr. James Nelson. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, my brother, man. I appreciate, the invite, the time, the space for us to just talk and share, man. We go way back. I'm just excited about, this conversation, man. I'm excited about it. I'm proud of you. Big ups to everything that you're doing in this space, finding your voice. And I'm excited, man. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. So what we're going to do, listeners and everybody out there, again, always thank you for locking arms. We're going to talk everything leadership. And my man has an amazing book, as you see in this background. And if you're listening, it's the 6 C's of leadership, how to gain commitment and buy in early. Yeah. But the energy before we get started. Yeah. Normally I'm the one that rings it in, but my main man here on the count of 3, he is going to ring in the let's go like only he can do it. On the count of 3, James. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get it. So, go ahead and take these first few minutes. Just tell the viewers, the audience, just your story. How we actually got to this point. Some of the history of, where you're from and, some of your passions that brought you to actually putting this amazing piece of work out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, like I said, we go way back, and I can go back a little bit further, than that. But, I'm a native Houstonian, born and raised right here in the southeast side of town, South Park, Sunnyside, as we affectionately call it. And, just growing up in an area, with all of our people and just living in the 70s, and I'm dating myself right now, but just growing up in a time, man, it was just all about family. It was all about just getting together, friends and everything. But, coming from that, and I mentioned it to you, we talked a while ago about being bussed over to the other side of town in the 3rd grade. I mean, I literally went from being at a, predominantly African-American, 100% African-American school, and being bussed in the 3rd grade all the way to the southwest side of town to a 99%, a white school. And that was a culture shock for me. Now, I say this now, but I didn't know it then. Just in hindsight, how important that particular move was for me in my growth and development. Because, and I say that because I had to realize and understand how to really navigate in a totally different environment that I wasn't comfortable in being in, right? I just wasn't. I went to school with people that looked like me, and then I got buffed over because of a magnet program. I guess I was smart enough, and I got picked. But man, it was uncomfortable. But you know what? And honestly, I haven't even talked to my mom about this, about how did that even happen? How did we even get chosen? Who had a conversation with my mom about busing me and my older brother? It was just me and my older brother at the time. And then a few of my cousins, and we were all bused over to this brand new school that was predominantly white. And so I say that, and then we can get into more of this, but what I found myself in, and this is why I say it was important, as I began to grow in corporate America, I found myself being the only African-American in senior leader positions, right? I was typically the only one in the room, right? And so I started to kind of go back and say, well, wait a minute, it was something that I learned and I, was able to adapt and and really process, from those earlier years. And so that just really translated into kind of how I grew. Had no idea it would have an impact on me like that, but it did. But from that, kind of the 6 C's of leadership, we can get into more of it, just how I sort of navigated taking over new teams, building high performance teams, being promoted up through the ranks, taking over new departments. I just kind of put together, hey, what were some of the things that I focused on that worked for me and getting people to buy in and commit to me and my vision and what I felt like we needed to do. So that's a little bit of background.
That's perfect, man. That's wonderful because, I didn't realize you had that same, you were busting third grade. I started at the Kincaid School in third grade. Marvin went before me and then I tested in. So having that same sort of similar experience, living in Missouri City and having friends that look like us, but then the vast majority of my classmates were white. I was the only black guy in my class till freshman year. 6th grade we had three black girls come, and then high school was first time ever, right? So it's kind of like having that experience, kind of like you said, makes you more of a chameleon. It makes you have to really adjust and pivot. And that actually leads me into a question with regard to the book. Your experience in corporate, going up the ladder, how long did it take you to create the framework for this book?
I'll be honest with you. I'll have to say that it was about a decade, right, of just, starting off, literally, we were just talking before we came on, your degree is in marketing, my degree is in marketing. And so when I graduated, I was looking for a job at a marketing firm or management level. I couldn't find one. And because they were looking for someone that already had experience. And so I honestly, after job fairs, job interviews, I took a job as a rep, a sales customer service rep on the phone, taking calls, right? And so at that point, I realized that, in order to get to the next level, I heard every reason why they told me that they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have the experience. And so I made it my goal to take every opportunity, every experience as an opportunity to grow and develop and get that experience, right? And so I started off on the phones. Man, dude, I had a brief. You remember the briefcases that had the little the codes on them? You know what I mean? I wanted to be a business chef, so I had a briefcase. Man, I'm making $5.77 an hour on the phone, talking to irate customers and trying to sell them on something that they said they didn't want. And so, in my mind, I said, you know what, I need to get to this next level. And so I just kind of positioned myself. So over the course of doing that for about 6 months, getting into a leadership development program, which I didn't apply for the first time around, and then finally getting in a program, and then eventually getting promoted to my first management position as a supervisor. That's really where it started. And dude, that's like the mid 90s, right? Okay. I don't want to date myself too much, but it was a while ago. But here was my first test. I got promoted to a supervisor position, and the first team they gave me was a team that I was actually on. So I became my peers' supervisor. Now I'm 24, 23, 24, 25 years old. These cats are in their late 20s, mid to early 30s. So they showed me how to do the job. Like they literally taught me how to do the job. And then 9 months later, I'm their supervisor. That was my first test. And that's what a lot of new leaders struggle with. How do I go from being a peer to a boss or a manager or a supervisor and being able to separate the two? So that's when it really started, because I had to grow up really fast, and I had to realize that if I'm going to effectively lead, I've got to have a separation and not in terms of class, but in terms of, my role and their role and defining those lines of demarcation. I had to figure that out early on. And, it was a process. So over the course of the next, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, supervise over multiple teams, and then eventually getting promoted to a manager. And then from there, just kind of moving up.
What would you say is, man, that's an amazing story, man, because, being in sales and having to go, and especially, men of color, like you said, there are extra hurdles and extra challenges and extra boxes that we have to check. There's extra I's that we have to dot, even though it's a capital I sometimes, right? And so
right.
What was it that
That's that capital Y.
Yeah. It makes it, and, when you go through it, it's like, you want me to do, but why? That's not even something that the predecessors ever had to do, right? So obviously that would had to have inspired you, those challenges and you being able to create those solutions versus solving problems. Like, when did it hit you that, what, I need to create an evolving piece of work that can not only help leaders, but help others aspiring to just be the best versions of themselves? Like, when did that really hit you to, like, I need to put this in form so that people can digest it?
Let me take it back just a little bit. I was a director over an operation. I had about 1,100 employees that reported in my organization at one time. It was with a major wireless carrier, still today. And we were going through sort of when you mature in leadership, you kind of hit a plateau. And here's the thing, I was promoted up through the ranks. So a lot of the people that I ended up leading, they were with me either from the beginning or somewhere during that process, right? And so when people are comfortable with you, sometimes it becomes a challenge. Not to get, I'm not trying to promote religion or anything like that, but one of the things that's quoted in the Bible is that, Jesus didn't perform many miracles in his hometown because they were familiar with him. And so when you're growing in an organization and people become stagnant and familiar and really comfortable, it creates sort of a block. So at that point, I said, let me get a different voice in here. And I hired a consultant to come in to kind of go through some leadership development with my team. And during the interview process, he was asking me, what are the most important things to you? Like, what do you really want to get across to your supervisors, your leads, your supervisors, your managers, your associate directors? What do you want them to understand about developing and building your teams? And I came up with those 6 C's back then, right? And then he sort of incorporated that into a curriculum, not in this format, but just he wanted to make sure that those themes were embedded in the training that he was facilitating. And so I came up and I just had to think about it. Like, what did I do? Okay, culture is important. Okay, communication is important. Consistency is important. Being able to collaborate. I had multiple departments and teams, so we have to be able to collaborate. How do I get people to collaborate and not compete, right? And then can't forget about people. So my leaders need to understand that you got to connect with people on a very deeper level than just stats. And then I said, if you do those 5 things, then you'll get commitment. And that's where it really started.
Yeah, man. And I love that. And with you mentioning all the 6, they are all connected together, right? They work hand in hand. If you don't have all those 6 is equally, you can falter and have your teams not have the complete buy-in.
Yeah. And the big mistake that people make is that you think that you can sleep on one and, hey, let's create a fun culture and everything's fun, everybody's happy, until you start holding people accountable, right? Right. And there's inconsistency. Yeah, that fun stuff goes out of the water when in a culture becomes very, challenged when people don't feel like you're being fair and consistent with them. So they do kind of build, on each other. That's why I say those 5, if you get those down, then you'll have people to commit for a period of time. And then you got to go back and refresh. So,
yeah. What would you say, in your career as being a leader, and we can take this back because we didn't even touch on that. You are a former basketball star, Mr. Basketball,
yeah.
played on, and I don't want to date you, but what
right.
would you say that your zest and zeal for leadership started on the basketball court? Like, was that ingrained in you from that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was a quiet leader. I led by example, right? When it came to drills, the commitment. I mean, I led by example. I wasn't just like a boisterous or just vocal leader. I went and put the work in, right? I think where my leadership really started to kind of come through is when I was in college. And, I was a captain all through high school, starter, leader, and all of that. And then, got a full scholarship to play ball at Midwestern State. And I was a 4-year starter. Not that it matters, but I'm going to say it. I'm still the 13th all-time leading scorer in the school's history to this day, right? So, I'll take that. But in that, I was really a student athlete, student first. So I was also the vice president of student government. I was the president of the student senate. I was very active in various, I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. So we were active on campus, a leader in the Black Student Union on campus. So I began to really find my voice on campus in college. And so that's where the leadership really kind of began to kind of blossom when I had to lead. For example, I was the president of the student senate. And that basically meant that I was responsible for all the organizations on campus, the fraternities, the various unions, and all of that. And we have student senate meetings, and we talked about campus issues and, whether it be racial issues, cultural, whatever, we had to deal with it. So that's where the leadership, I think that at that point is where I really kind of stepped into being out front.
Absolutely. And man, see, like I love these interactions because as long as I've known you, I'm getting to see a different layer and different levels as to why you're successful, not only with the book, but with the brand that you have and every other business venture that you have. You are known and you have a history of taking action, from being a quiet leader and actually showing and proving. So with that action, and that's one of the things I always share on the show, is you have to be comfortable taking uncomfortable action until you're just comfortable taking action. When it comes to, you taking the book along this process, what would you say was the most uncomfortable action that you had to take? Meaning whether it was from taking this idea, which one of your bosses already implemented, to actually writing it, all the way to selling and marketing the book. You can pick and choose anywhere in between. What would you say was the most out of your comfort zone thing that you had to do with, putting the book out?
Yeah. So going back to that was actually, when I got the consultant, like that was me and him kind of working through that. So my VP gave me autonomy to kind of, hey, whatever you need to do to get the team to the next level. So that was really organic, with me, right? That wasn't a handed down, do these things. In terms of the, the book, man, the truth of the matter is, we all have insecurities. We all, as much as people see me the way they see me, I don't necessarily always see myself like that. I don't see myself. I've heard more from people now than I ever thought about myself in terms of leadership and my impact and how I've influenced people. I've had people come to me after, years later, that have worked for me and said, hey man, ran into a guy just, out and about. Didn't know him. More people know me than I knew them, right? And that's not any, no disrespect to them. It's just like I had 1,000 people. I couldn't know everybody, but I knew faces. And so I've had people approach me and say, hey, I just want to tell you, and they said, Mr. Nelson, I'm like, nah, dude, we at 50-15. You don't have to call me Mr. Nelson. We just hanging, right? And so, No, you really don't know how much you impacted my life when we saw you in that position and leading out front, knowing that I was only one of a few in that position. Um, that that piece right there really kind of resonated with me. But the biggest challenge for me was just starting. And when the pandemic hit, I didn't have anything but time. I said, you know what, I'm getting this out of my head. Um, about 5 years ago, I was working for this chemical distribution company. I was a regional sales leader, and I was in a sales training at U of H. And while they were teaching, man, it just came to me again, the 6 C's. And I just started doodling on my notepad. And I've got it right over there, man. I mean, I just started writing the 6 C's of leadership. You know, I'm going to be one of the most sought after leaders in terms of leadership development. Customer service leader, guru. I'm just writing these things out on this page. And this was in 2017, I believe. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. Fast forward 2020. Yeah, 2020. No, take that back, 21, because I started writing it early last year when the pandemic hit. 2021, I finally said, you know what? Let me just start the process, get the framework. And I did reach out to a writer to kind of help with kind of the process.
Yeah.
And we had several meetings, conference calls, and I just talked to her about what was in me. And I said, I want this to be a very simple, easy read, but powerful, impactful. I don't want someone to have to go get a dictionary to try to process what I just said. And then, by November last year, we were done. And I just put it out there. And then it's like the fear of, okay, what are people going to think about it? And it's like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You got to get past it. It doesn't matter. So that was kind of the thing for me, just doing it.
Yeah, man, one of the things that you touched on that is it's a nugget that people really need for us to kind of touch on. When you were sitting in that training class and you were doodling and you saw the results in advance, what you actually wanted and wrote it. Speak to that to the listeners, like how important it is for you don't even have to, I say, don't wait to celebrate. Like, that you were given this vision from God or higher power or source. It's up to you to really put it out there before it even happens so that you can actually have the momentum. Speak to that, how important it is for.
Yeah, no, and it's a great question, because most people don't realize the power they have right in here, right? And so, you can read in whatever books or whatever, your beliefs and religions and all that, all of them pretty much speak to, as you think, so will you be. However you word it, doesn't really matter. It starts in your mind. If you can begin to envision something so clearly and having that mental clarity about this is what I want, and you begin to write it and you begin to move in that direction, it doesn't matter what it looks like, man, you will see things that you probably would never thought that you could accomplish. But you got to get past that fear. There's greatness on the other side of that door, but you got to be willing to walk through it, no matter what that feels like. So for me, I've had, just growing up, having insecurities. I mean, I have no shame in saying that, I was insecure growing up. I found myself in basketball because I could perform well. But personally, I'll just say this, growing up during that time, being a dark-skinned brother just wasn't always, I think we came into style about 84, 85.
Yeah.
Right. So, there was a lot of years before that. So you got to unpack all of that. So I just think, man, people should take time to meditate more and just get mental clarity and find whatever their piece is. And once you hear, just move.
Wonderful, man. Listen, with the book, do you think, I know it's the 6 C's of leadership. If somebody, one of the listeners, the audience, is not in a leadership position, is this book for them?
Absolutely, because here's the thing: whether you Whether you're leading someone, you're influencing someone, right? See, people mistake leadership for, I have somebody that's, that's reporting to me. Leadership is about influence. One of the things that I talk about in the book is that when you're going into a new situation or a team, you need to understand what the culture is. And one part of that is understanding who the key influencers are on that team that don't have titles. See, leadership is not about your title. Leadership is about how much influence you have. So if you don't have a team, but you're an influencer, this book is for you. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to start a business, and it's just you solo dolo, this book will help you, because when you're dealing with vendors and you're communicating with people and you're trying to partner on a line, and all of this is relevant, right? It doesn't mean that people are just reporting to you. It's, do you understand the culture that you're going into? Do you understand the communication protocols? I've read, leaders talk about when you go into different countries and what are the norms, right? When you're going to Asia, you're going to the Middle East, and you're going to Europe, and you're going to, the continent of Africa. There are customs and norms that you need to understand, right?
Yeah.
Before, because you can be in a situation, it can get sideways real quick because you out of pocket. You don't understand the culture.
Yeah.
So it just helps you think about, before you act, go understand kind of what's been going on. Where am I going? What am I going into? Right. Yeah. And so I think there's some parallels there, and it's transferable, it's relational. You know what I mean? Communication is one of the biggest challenges in relationships. So
100%.
Understanding how to communicate with people.
Yeah,
so,
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Man, and so with that being said, also, big question for the book, like, what are the three, and I know you kind of touched on it with the, the different, the communication and how important it is connecting in the rest of the C's. What are some three like essential nuggets that people are going to walk away from with the 6 C's of leadership?
And let me say that I'm gonna give you a few statistics, right? And this is going to be big, right? 3 reasons why I feel like the book is really, really important and relevant is that you realize I was reading a study coming into 2022, and it said that 69% of millennials believe there is a lack of leadership development. 69% of them believe that there's no leadership development in the workplace. Listen, 79% of people will quit their jobs because of the lack of appreciation from their leadership team, right? Another data point, 83% of companies believe it's important to develop leaders at all levels, but many of them don't have any type of leadership development program. So my thing is that you have to take that on yourself, because if you think you're going to get developed as a leader in your corporation, they're going to teach you how to be a leader. They're not. They're going to hire you into that position and say, go. Right. And it's going to be what we call sink or swim, OJT,
feast or famine.
Feast or famine. And many new leaders make mistakes and have major pitfalls because they don't have any type of foundational principles around leadership. And this is just an intro into kind of how you should approach. You just got promoted. Great. I salute you. Good job. What's the first thing you're going to do when you go into that new team? What if they happen to be peers of yours? What if you're going into a new department, right? In the same company? Totally different leadership over there. So what you were accustomed to under your leader is totally different. You're in a totally different division now. Yeah. How's that going to work for you, right? Yeah. So the book just gives them like some things to think about as you're going into that new situation.
Yeah, man, I love the book. Tell the audience where they can pick a copy up.
So you can go to my website, www.jamesnelsonleads.com. It's available on Amazon. So if you go search the 6 C's of Leadership, How to Gain Commitment and Buying Early, you can find it on Amazon. The quickest way is to go to my website, click on the link, it'll take you straight to Amazon to purchase it. And, I'm on social media. I mean, obviously we all have to be there, but my Instagram, James Nelson Leads. You can reach me by, email info@jamesnelsonleads. One thing you learn in marketing, you got to be consistent, right? You can't have like 1,000 different names.
Absolutely.
So those are the 3 main areas that you can reach out to me, and then also find the book online on Amazon or on my website.
And just so you listeners know, all those links that he just mentioned, they will be in the description of the podcast episode. So you're not going to have to actually listen to and then go search. We're going to make it seamless for you as well. What else is going on with Mr. Nelson? I know this is not just the only thing. What's on the horizon for you if you want to give a little appetizer?
Yeah, well, a couple of, number one, I'm we talked a little bit earlier about my official book signing. I'm about 9 months in, so we're locking in a date. It was the 30th, but we're actually pushing that back. So right now it's tentative, the 13th. I'll let you know, and then you can share with your viewers and listeners. Just my own personal development. I'm actually going through the process of getting my John Maxwell certification so that I could really teach. I'm a big John Maxwell fan. He's a guru in leadership, right?
Absolutely.
My book is just a tiny fraction of what this guy's put out over the decades, right? I'm just carving out my little piece and trying to speak to those that would be in my audience. So I'm going through that certification right now. Also, being available for lunch and learns, master classes. That's really my next phase for corporations that. Listen, I'm a hired gun. Like if you want me to come in and speak to your leaders, I'm an excellent speaker. I'm an excellent motivator, communicator, and I'm tooting my own horn here. But very inspirational. Beep, too, right? But you know what, Rod? I'm passionate about it. I care about people growing and developing and getting to the next level. So right now, that's where I am. Just looking forward to the back half of the year, man, and just seeing where the energy takes us. So,
yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to do more with you as well.
Yeah, man, we got to.
Yeah, it's a must for us to make it happen. We'll talk offline, but yeah, we're definitely going to make that happen. Man, as always, I want to leave my guests with the final word in terms of the lasting impact that you want to have, whatever the message is. I'm going to give you the floor and you share, speak to my audience, speak to the audiences out there. And just let us know your final word.
Yeah, you know what? I got to make sure that I'm always on cue for that. But here's the final word that I'll give. Excuse me. The word is fearless, right? Now's not the time to be crippled or paralyzed by fear, right? Whatever it is that you've been challenged with, whatever is presented a roadblock to you, met with resistance, that's the thing that you need to lean into. Lean into that and be fearless about it. And it doesn't matter what it feels like, just press past whatever that fear is. And on the other side of that, man, you're going to see exponential growth personally, spiritually, just mentally. And so I would just say fearless, man. Just be fearless and go for it.
Yeah, man. I love it. Man. I appreciate you so much, James, for taking the time, man, and allowing me to this space just to share, man. We're family. And so it's my honor. That's why I created the platform, so that we can both together collaborative help those out there, to step into that light and be the best versions of themselves. So to everybody that's listening, to everybody that's watching, thank you for allowing us the time and the space to lock arms and just share our stories and share our journeys. And we're going to continue to do it. Be on the lookout more. Go to Amazon. Actually, first, go to his website first, buy the book. And if you happen to go to Amazon, go there too. Buy 2-3 copies, however many.
Yeah.
But we love you all. Thank you. And we will see each other soon.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.